Hey, how you doing, guys? So Daytona Supercross happened this past Saturday night, and we were greeted to two new winners in 2025. Ken Roczen in the 450 class, RJ Hampshire in the 250 class. I'm going to start with the 250 class first, and here comes my banner, because there's quite a bit to talk about there. But remember, guys, subscribe if you think that I'm worth listening to, and that's good enough for me. So with that being said, you already see my banner for the 250s, so let's get into this. And as you can see, RJ Hampshire wins. Bad crash for Levi Kitchen. Carson Mumford given idiotic penalty. I'm going to elaborate on the last part a little bit, but talking about the race first, that was a great win for RJ Hampshire after some kind of sour performances, at least at Tampa anyway, because he had that meeting with the tough block, and it kind of ruined his night, even after that, even after a supposed red flag. And Detroit, he didn't really ride up to his ability, in my opinion. And as a result, it was Levi Kitchen who won. But unfortunately for round 3, for Levi Kitchen, everything went downhill when he had that really bad endo off of that jump going 55 or 60 after the finish line jump. And I got to say, that was a really terrible crash. That actually took me back to when James Stewart ate it at Daytona in 2006, when he got up on the front and hit a kicker, or he cleared the bump, but his front end dipped and he got violently tossed over the turn, but he returned to the race and salvaged a 6th place finish, even going a lap down. But for Levi Kitchen to not return to the race, that was a pretty bad one. So that led me to believe that Levi Kitchen may have suffered a concussion. But as it turns out, he's got a couple of broken ribs. And to be perfectly honest, that might be it for Levi Kitchen as far as the Supercross season is concerned. Because for Levi to still be awake and alert after something like that is a miracle in itself. Take it from me. Because I've had my fair share of whacks to the head for sure, away from the track, and even having some falls to the ground. I can remember myself having a really bad fall on my last day of 7th grade. I think I bumped into somebody, fell flat on my head. But, that's the kind of thing that can really scare you. And to be frank, I was pretty scared for Levi Kitchen myself, and that resulted in a red flag. And for the second time in a row, we had a red flag with the Pro Circuit rider down. Last week, it was Cameron McAdoo. He did not even line up for the 250 main event. And I actually commend Mitch Payton for pulling the plug on Cameron McAdoo's season. He's not in contention for the title, so he really had no reason to be out there, even for the heat race. I mean, Cam, I respect you for trying to come back after this, but you know what happened to James Stewart and what really ended his season after that WADA suspension was that he kept trying to come back after he crashed out bad at Anaheim 1 2016. And James even said himself that he was done after he kept trying to come back. And for McAdoo to be racing through a torn ACL and have all these kinds of crashes, that's not good recovery for your mind and your body, for that matter. Because for someone like McAdoo, he could sustain another injury, or perhaps that knee could be total knee replacement. It's only bad news for sure. And I commend Mitch Payton for pulling the plug on him, because I probably would have pulled the plug on him on McAdoo before the racing even began. He's not in contention for the title, like I said. And I get it. You want to get some more starts and try to get a win before it's all over. But all that isn't even worth it if it means mental problems down the line, because a lot of concussions can be really bad for the noggin, for sure. Now, the last part in my banner is that Carson Mumford was given an idiotic penalty, in my opinion, because I was looking on social media, and there was an article there on Dirt Bike Lover or something like that said that Carson Mumford was docked 4 positions for cutting for an off-track excursion. And after hearing Carson Mumford's side of the story, if I'm Carson Mumford and QuadLock Honda, I'm appealing that penalty, because Carson Mumford has said it was either ride over Max Anstie's bike or Max Anstie himself, or take the safe route and go off the track. Carson Mumford took the safe route. And I got to say, if I was Carson Mumford, that is the exact same thing I would have done. But for Carson Mumford to be penalized 4 positions is not only harsh, it's injustice. And if you're the AMA right now, you just got another black mark, in my opinion, because to be issued a 4-position penalty for taking a safe route to avoid riding over a down rider, that's not justice. That's being a real dick, okay? And furthermore, it just proves, in my opinion, that the AMA is run by a bunch of idiots who don't know good racing if it hit them in the face. No 2 ways about it. Because Carson Mumford has got a legitimate case, and QuadLock Honda should appeal that penalty. Because, really, if you're the AMA right now, and you'd rather have Carson Mumford feel like shit for rolling over Max Anstie and not give him a penalty, but give him a penalty for going off track and taking the safe route, no. That's, like I said, that's being a dick, okay? That's being a real dick to someone for taking the safe route. And Carson Mumford has got a legitimate case, and he and QuadLock Honda should really appeal that penalty. Because, really, would you rather have Carson Mumford feel like shit for riding over a guy? Because that's not a good feeling. That's like hitting somebody. That's like hitting a pedestrian crossing the street when there's nothing you could do, because you're ultimately the loser in that situation. The driver is, anyway. If you're driving a car and you hit a pedestrian unintentionally, you're still going to feel like shit, even if it's not your fault, for sure. But then again, you're still the loser in that one, as unfortunate as it is. So really, Carson Mumford, QuadLock Honda, appeal that penalty for sure. And that's all I got to say about that. The 450 class, here's my banner here. Ken Roczen wins Suzuki's first Daytona win since 2009. I was looking back on the Racer X vault. It is 16 years since Suzuki last stood atop the podium at Daytona. And it was none other than Chad Reed who won that race. But for Ken Roczen to get the win, that was a great feeling and a great feel-good story for sure. For him to get one win over Cooper Webb finally is a great confidence booster for Kenny. And while I still don't take back what I said earlier about what happened at Tampa and what happened at Detroit, where he practically let Detroit get away, Tampa was just completely out of his control. But face it, Kenny, you got the win. I applaud you for that. And fortunately, Cooper Webb had made mistakes. But to be frank, I might have been a little skeptical about Roczen still winning if Cooper Webb had the Daytona track dialed in. Okay. Am I saying that Webb would have gotten Roczen? No. But am I saying Roczen would have still won? Even if Webb was putting that charge on him? No. But still, it all depended on that rhythm section where Cooper Webb bobbled and Ken Roczen got through there very efficiently. And as a result, Kenny was able to win it. And Webb ended up dropping an anchor and settling for second. But the guy that I thought was going to win, Aaron Plessinger, after Jason Anderson also kind of dropped anchor as well. He ended up fading to about 7th. And I really was hoping that Aaron Plessinger was going to win that one, but he looked like he kind of blew himself up. Now, he also had to take into account the fact that he was pretty sick recently. But I honestly thought that Plessinger had not been up front like that in a long time, and nervousness kind of crept in, and as a result, he kind of blew himself up. But then again, you talk about so many times, I want that opportunity. I want to lead a race. And when you're finally given that opportunity, you don't really take advantage of it. And you want it so bad that, you finally got your chance. And then you're like, what do I do? That's kind of an odd thing. And that's kind of what Aaron Plessinger went through. So it's not entirely. So what happened to Aaron is not completely on his sickness. But I do think that Aaron Plessinger had fallen victim to wanting something so bad and not figuring out how to take advantage of it. Okay? That's the kind of thing, kind of like in basketball where you want the ball, and then you're like, okay, now what? Okay, where do I make, then you're like thinking to yourself, okay, where do I make the shot? Okay? That's kind of what Aaron Plessinger had went through as well. Like a basketball player that wanted the ball and kind of forgot what to do. And didn't really know where to take a shot, basically. But Chase Sexton is a guy that I thought was also going to win this race. But after that crash in his heat race, that kind of dinged him up, and he wasn't really the same after that. And I really hope that Sexton was not seriously hurt. And there was a time where I thought he was going to just whiz by everyone, but it just didn't work out. But I hope that Sexton didn't suffer an injury or something. It didn't look like he did. But especially a concussion, because that can be bad news for sure. So I guess we'll find out when we head to Indianapolis. That's an East-West showdown this coming Saturday at Lucas Oil Stadium. So let's hope that Sexton will be back to the Chase Sexton that we know. And then they get a week off, I think, afterwards. So that'll be good to put the mind to rest, especially if you're Chase Sexton and you've been racing for 9 weeks straight. And everybody else for that matter. So hopefully that we'll have another different winner, or perhaps Chase Sexton can get his act together and either finish ahead of Webb or win the race. But Cooper Webb is a guy that you do not want to let get on a roll, because nobody knows that better than Ken Roczen for sure. When you look at what happened in 2019 when Cooper Webb just kind of romped his way to his first title, it's starting to look like this will be title number 3 for Cooper Webb, unless somebody gets in his way and either puts him down or something, or Cooper Webb has a crash of his own and an injury. So we'll see what happens. Indianapolis is next. I hope that Sexton can get back on top of things, or at least beat Webb outright. So anyway, guys, that's all for today. And remember, subscribe. We'll see you all for Indianapolis.